everybody, I'm Monica, and I'm going to respond to my opponent's claim that length of presidential cycles should be decreased by reducing the primary process, because essentially that there's no real benefit to having a long campaign and that there's no positive impact due to the cost of a campaign. But I would like to start out by saying that in an article by the Star Tribune, they wrote that while shorter campaigns would save money and time and would probably reduce voter fatigue, our long electoral process is good for voters and good for democracy. So if we want to talk about what makes it good for our candidates, we really have to think about the time that they spend campaigning. They spend a lot of time giving speeches, they spend a lot of time traveling the country, and they spend a lot of time paying attention to polls. So they can see if I go and I give a speech here and I talk about jobs and my poll numbers go up, then this is what my voters want more so than if I talk about energy and my poll numbers go down. So it gives them time to kind of get familiar with the people who will be voting for them. As far as the costs go, it does cost millions of dollars to run a primary campaign. Essentially, if we want to look at some numbers from our most recent primary, Clinton was able to fundraise from donors a total of $238.2 million, while Sanders was able to raise $229.1 million. Well, we look at these numbers are quite similar when they're coming from donations. If we look at what the New York Times called the total here, for Clinton it was $334.9 million, and Sanders remained at the $229.1 million mark. And we have to look at what kind of makes up for these costs that our candidates, the donations that our candidates are receiving. And Clinton here received a total of $96.7 million from super PACs, and Sanders received less than $0.1 million from the super PACs. So the Center for Public Integrity defines a super PAC as like a political organization or committee, and they're capable of accepting unlimited donations, and they can't contribute directly to candidates, but what they can contribute to is like funds that advocate for or against a particular candidate. So we see with that even within the same party that there are huge variations in the amount of money that people are able to raise or able to spend on a campaign depending on who's supporting you or who's not supporting you. That was in 2016, the numbers that I gave you. And as of 2015, a year before the primaries, Clinton campaign had already raised $47.5 million, while the Sanders campaign had only raised $15.2 million. Between party lines, the comparison between the amount of money raised or donated is even different. The New York Times also wrote that Republicans have outpaced Democrats in raising money from unlimited donations. And a quick figure here, Republicans were at $260.7 million in donations at the time of this survey, and the Democrats were at 17.1. So we see that there's a huge discrepancy even between parties and the amount of money that they're able to raise essentially for a campaign. So I would like to state that a longer campaign kind of gives candidates more time to be more competitive, to receive more donations, to get the notice of more organizations in order to kind of be competitive in a campaign. A quick claim that I would like to make also is that longer campaigns really benefit the voter, because the way that humans perceive other people and the way that we perceive political candidates is actually, essentially the way we perceive candidates, in one study by the American behavioral scientists, they based it on a 4-step model called the Keplinger model, and it's essentially is that we perceive people based on visual cues and not necessarily what they're saying, right? So in this case, a politician behaves a certain way, so nonverbal communication. This nonverbal behavior is captured by editorial staff, so think news media or campaign staff, and it's edited in a certain way that can positively reflect the candidate. This content is then used to influence voters. And then short-term impressions are made, and eventually voters are able to form long-term opinions about candidates based on how they're portrayed. So again, I just want to reiterate that psychology really confirms that we react to people based on physical appearance and visual signals, and that things like attractiveness, our judgments of somebody's attractiveness really carry over to their personality traits. And that's called the halo effect. So really quickly, we want to talk about one example of the halo effect in politics. In one study in 1993, they examined people who viewed a debate involving Bill Clinton and those who listened to only, did not view. So those who listened only to the debate reported shifted perceptions of Bill Clinton afterwards, but those who viewed and listened to the debate reported that they had no shift in their perception. So other candidates have been affected by this, including Kennedy and Nixon, which is an older example. So it's not just related to modern media or media portrayal or things like that. In Kennedy-Nixon debate, they found that people who viewed the debate reported that their perceptions of the candidates were based on integrity, while those who listened only to the debate based their reactions to the candidates based on the candidates' arguments. So in a quick wrap up here, I would just like to say that longer campaigns benefit candidates because it gives them time to raise funds necessary to compete in a campaign. It benefits voters because people by nature need time to form opinions about political candidates. Thank you.